Welcome to Unhinged Outbursts, William Cannoli's YouTube podcast. This is episode 4, Don't Take My Speed.
Hello everybody, and thank you for tuning back into the podcast. Today, my friend Jack and I are going to talk about something very outrageous that is on the table. It's being discussed. Hopefully it never comes into fruition, but essentially, California is discussing if they're going to mandate sensors on vehicles that makes it so that they cannot exceed the speed limit. And not only that, but it's going to keep the cars from going 10 miles an hour under the speed limit at all time, no matter where they are. Now, I have my thoughts. I'm sure you have your thoughts. But together, Jack and I are going to hash out if we're in the right for being mad or if this is for the greater good. So, thank you again for being here, Jack. Always appreciate having you on.
Good to be here, William.
So, have you heard anything about that regulation?
You know, I got to tell you, the first I'm hearing it is from you.
So, your instant reaction, how do you feel?
Right off the bat, I think it's fucking ridiculous.
I agree, and I don't think I'm going to be persuaded to think about it otherwise. My reference for knowing that people can go above the speed limit is that every other fucking country can do it without problems. I mean, look at the Autobahn.
You know, I got to tell you, yeah, the Autobahn's a good example. Now, I know their idea of this is it's going to keep people safe in residential areas, etc. Now, I'm not one of those dudes who's anti-government, no regulation, blah blah blah. But there just seems to be something fundamentally wrong about imposing a limit like this on someone's personally operated vehicle.
Yeah, we can get into that because that's a great, kind of jumping off point. You and I both are not somebody who is, necessarily anti-government like you just covered, but we are also not going to roll over for every, stupid idea that comes our way from the government.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess because I'm familiar with the concept of a governor on a car, but what's perplexing to me is that you're saying that a certain level of speed will be mandated in areas as well.
Yeah, so who knows if they actually would be able to have that technology. Using both Waze and Google Maps. I personally don't use Google Maps anymore, but I have seen them recently through other people. I know that A, according to them, the speed limit can be wrong, and B, there's areas of particular roads that they just don't even have a speed limit listed. Now, of course, there is one in real life, but according to the maps, and I imagine whatever governor is going to be on the vehicles is going to be using...
Totally, or Waze or anything of that nature.
Right, so I don't really see if it's actually a possibility for them to do that, but just the fact that we're even having the conversation is absolutely insane to me. If they wanted to talk about lowering the speed limits in total, or increasing the difficulty of the driving test to get your license, or increasing the fines on tickets, or even I would actually prefer suggesting jail time if you've had 3 speeding tickets rather than just everybody has to go 40 miles an hour in a 50 mile an hour zone.
100%. I think this is going to come down to the enforcement side of things, because here's the thing. I see people driving like shit, driving recklessly in a way that endangers innocent people, and it pisses me off. And in those moments, I would like a technology like this, but I think the answer is to hold people accountable. I like your idea of 3 speeding tickets, maybe a minor jail sentence or something, because if you get 3 speeding tickets, you have not learned your fucking lesson. Let's be real here.
And, I know somebody who has received easily over 25 speeding tickets in a 10-year span, and the worst that they did was eventually at the end they did suspend his license, but that motherfucker was still driving without the license. Yeah, he was more careful so he didn't get pulled over, but I mean, that really wasn't a punishment. If you can afford to keep paying it, why wouldn't you just keep driving over the speed limit?
Is this a person who you went to high school with whose name begins with J.U.?
No. Thankfully, I don't think he can afford a car.
Okay.
No.
Just checking.
Astonishingly, the person in particular, he has A for his first and last name, and I think you may have run in the same circles with him at one point, but I don't know if you would have known him.
Okay, I know literally exactly who you're talking about. We worked at a grocery store together.
That's insane.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking
That's
about.
actually hilarious. Small world, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So anyway, again, I don't think it will ever actually happen. But the fact that we're having this conversation, look, we can talk badly about the South, and I'm going to continue to do that, but this would never, ever, ever even make it to a, whatever you want to call it, the lowest form of, like, let's say PTA. It's never going to make it to the discussion board. And yet here we are in California where it's feasible that people are going to try to get it onto a primary ballot.
Yeah, no. People make fun of California for shit just like this.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not saying that this is enough to make me move states. However, if you are going to be imposing things of this nature, yeah, there's no way I'm putting up with that shit.
Arizona looks nice sometimes. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you know what? Arizona does look nice, except they don't have hockey anymore, so that's a hit.
Yeah, that's out. That cuts our hangout times, basically.
If Fernando's watching right now, I know he just flipped off the screen. But yeah, just imagine the fact that who cares that it's actually limiting your speed. Imagine going to the dealership, spending over $50,000 to get a car that's in your name, and you don't have control over it. That is absolutely insanity.
Like I said, on principle, it just feels wrong to have the government's hand in that particular instance because you own the vehicle, as you mentioned.
Right. And, again, with other people I know of some people that have had more than one DUI, and they haven't really suffered consequences either. I mean, like getting your car impounded and your license taken away for a year, yeah, that's inconvenient. It definitely has an impact on your life, but it is not the end of the world. And, if you are in a 65 mile an hour and the car is limited to 10, so now it's at 55, you can still easily kill somebody going the wrong way as a drunk driver. Like, it's not going to eliminate very many problems.
Yeah, and I will say, there's times where it's perfectly practical to go just a little above the speed limit. Like, you got to overtake someone who's going right at the speed limit, for example.
Absolutely. Or, if there's any sort of family emergency at any time. Like, look, even I'll go as far as saying that if there's a situation where you need to get somebody to the hospital and you know damn well you cannot afford the fucking ambulance ride, yeah, you're going to have to go a little bit over 35. Sorry.
So you're aware of a certain medical emergency I had late last year. Were you aware I drove myself?
You are an absolute menace, bro. I did not know that.
I drove myself. It was 4 a.m.
With a gut-wrenching pain. Literally.
Yeah, that's correct. And I can't say for sure, but I'm going to guess I may have been just a little bit over the speed limit.
I would fucking hope so.
There were no other cars.
Right. That is crazy, man. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, I told you everything about that story, but I didn't really think much of it because it's only 2 miles away.
Yeah, but still, that's an impressive feat, man.
Thank you.
That is insanity.
The doctors were marveling at it, like how the fuck did you? Anyway,
yeah, I can fucking imagine. That is crazy.
I parked like shit because I was under distress.
And that was still in the other car you had, right?
That's correct.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So did you bleed out in the car? Well, not actually bleeding out, but did you get blood in the car?
Not in the car because it was internal.
No, of course. But I'm guessing you had to drive the car home, and I'm guessing your stitches weren't...
Oh, good. Yeah, I understand. I had some help getting it home. I wasn't driving at all for like a few weeks after that.
Yeah, I remember that you didn't drive directly after, but I was wondering if you were able to get it back home the same night or not. But anyway, being kind of on this same topic, obviously we are both very against what they are talking about with putting a regulator or a governor, interchangeable words. Putting a regulator on our speed. Now it goes to the question, because other people are saying, why even bother with that? Just make every car a self-driving car. How do you feel about that?
The tech on that is not where it should be yet. I don't trust it just yet.
Yeah. I know for a fact that they are having multiple problems every year. There's somebody killed. I'll say it specifically from a Tesla that malfunctioned. There's crashes and dash cams everywhere proving this. But let's say we wake up tomorrow and every brand of car has it worked out to a perfect science. Solar flares are never going to interfere. Everything's going to be perfect. Do you still vote no against them?
I think you should have the right to have it if you're fairly confident that it's going to be okay. But that's a very big if. I don't know if we're ever going to reach that point. We could, but nonetheless, I still wouldn't like the speed limit technology in place.
Yeah, I don't understand how some people don't like to drive. I know there are plenty of people that if they could, they would always defer to somebody else. I mean, there's not a lot left in the world, but there are literally job opportunities where you are a personal driver for somebody, even if they're not a celebrity. Me, on the other hand, I can't drive enough. I drove all the way to Baltimore and back to San Diego. I did every single second of seat time, nobody else. I love driving, and so to think that I can't just go in the car and just shoot over to your house on my own terms is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I definitely know you like driving more than the average person. Now, there's folks in New York City who essentially live this way already, but with much different technology. But to have that for everyone seems strange for me. But I guess it's a personal preference. I like driving too, maybe not as much as you, but more than the average person.
But again,
After all, I drove myself.
yeah, that's crazy. I can appreciate that you didn't want to call me at 4 in the morning and that it probably would have taken me much more time to actually get out of the house to get over to you. But you could have called me.
I believe you 100%, but the pain wouldn't let me think about that.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, that's pretty intense, dude. But yeah, again, so the thing with New York is that is a much different situation. The way that place is designed, it doesn't matter if you're driving or if a robot's driving for you. The majority of your trip is going to be stop and go. Obviously, we have the luxury of, we're going to have stop and go moments, but we can actually go up and down the coast and, soak it all in. And yeah, you could do that if somebody else is driving for you, but it's definitely not the same.
Yeah, I know of at least a handful of people, and one person in particular, really pushing for these self-driving cars, but it's going to take some time. Let's not force it, and let's not mandate it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I hope the technology never gets there, just so we don't have to worry about if we're going to do it or not.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if I'm at an intersection and there's a so-called self-driving car on the other side, I'm getting real scared.
Yeah. My main thing is they do all the sensors and they do all the tests, and there's videos proving how the sensors don't work. There's ways to, not intentionally, but there's ways to trick it. Like the car knows how to sense the car that's directly in front of you, but if somebody merges lanes or if that car merges lanes, the sensor doesn't pick it up on time. So my whole thing is that if you're going to have nothing but self-driving cars, does that mean you're going to not have motorcycles? Because motorcycles can definitely trick the system too. So where are you going to cut, how many rights are we going to lose over self-driving cars? Because I don't think you can have self-driving cars and somebody out on a motorcycle, and unless you equip some sort of training wheels or like some gyro function, you can't have a self-riding motorcycle.
Yeah, I guess this comes down to it being an option versus it being mandatory for people. Because I agree, you can't have a self-driving motorcycle, at least not anytime soon. I think that's a bad idea. I hope nobody would attempt such a thing right now.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if any of this would actually ever come into fruition, but the fact that they are discussing the regulator on speed limits means that it's not a far off idea that they would mandate everybody's driving at all times.
Yeah, I would appreciate it if I weren't on the road in one of these things.
Yeah, not to sound like a redneck who's worried about having Obama come and take my guns away, but don't touch my goddamn accelerator.
Exactly.
All right, and another thing that gives me hope that we won't get to that point is, tickets are pretty expensive. Now, again, not for people who don't have to worry about that kind of thing, but for the average person, especially down here just trying to afford our rent, yeah, tickets are pretty expensive, and the city would lose out on a ton of income if they actually did control everybody's speed at all times. So I think that is going to be just enough of a ray of hope to not expect this to actually go through.
Yeah, it's kind of misanthropic, kind of pessimistic, but that could be the very thing that prevents this from happening. Really, I think it's just kind of an idea. If I had to guess, it's not really going to happen, but the thought of it still pisses us off.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like let's say, okay, they immediately vote and get it that we have the regulators, and then they immediately vote that everybody has to be in a self-driving car. How far are we going to let it go before we actually have a serious issue with that? Again, not to sound like a ultra conservative, but how many freedoms can you actually sacrifice? And I think this is starting to really impede on people's freedoms, and that it opens up the conversation for much more. Why can you stop it at controlling somebody's speed and not, take it to the most outlandish extreme?
The slippery slope could happen. It's usually a fallacy, but if you let them put this limiting technology on your car, it's like who knows what else they can start doing. Or they're going to mandate cameras inside of your car that they're watching. I know that's paranoia, but it's not actually going to happen. But it does raise some important questions.
I mean, it's not too far off. They do have something that watches. I don't think it's necessarily watching the drivers at all time, but there is a camera in the Tesla that at least depicts an animation of where the people were sitting, so that when it does have a malfunction and they go to a lawsuit, they can say, oh, the driver was turned completely to the right, they weren't looking, and that is how they have beat a lawsuit in the past, because they say in the fine print it's not a completely self-driving car, you're still supposed to be in control. So the point of saying all that is that they actually do have a camera on the people in the car. So, you're not too far off. I mean, they could start putting a camera that shows them, and then you could be like, oh, were they texting? I mean, again, it could be just complete, like you said, doom and gloom, but there is some reality to that.
I wasn't aware of that. That's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I fucking think so, but I tend to be in the minority when it comes to anything about Tesla.
Cybertrucks look like shit. That's all I'm going to say.
So let's indulge on that topic for a while. Let's say they demand to have a camera on you at all times in your car. What are you going to do about that?
That's messed up, man. Shit, hopefully that law wouldn't go through. I hope not.
I mean, it's not feasible to say that, we're just not going to take a car anymore, right? So is there anything that you could do to fight back on that? I mean, I don't think there is, right? You can't cover it. They're going to know if you cover it.
Yes, they will. You better start protesting, my guy.
Yeah, I think literally the only defense is to just never let this stuff happen in the first place.
Mm.
Well, if that didn't make you paranoid and you aren't scared about how Cybernet is going to take over and, Teslas are going to explode through the side of daycares like all those helpless kids had to face against the Toyotas in 2009, I guess you're probably in a better headspace than I am.
I'm going to think about this next time I drive.
Yeah, I think if anything, it should definitely have everybody thinking about all the liberties that we do have, and to think it is pretty nice that right now I can go and drive all the way across the entire country and back if I wanted to, and I hope we don't ever lose that ability.
Never. Yeah, and you'll obey the speed limit, but only because you want to.
I mean, like, let's say, I've never been pulled over, I've never got a ticket, but let's just say, I'm not exactly doing the speed limit myself.
It's normal to go a little over it. Like even for the DMV test, they let you go a little over.
We also have a 5.0 Mustang sitting out there that you and I have, gone a little bit above the speed limit, just like a mile or two. I won't say nothing too extreme.
Just a hair. Fuck that proposition. Don't drive like an asshole. Up the enforcement as needed, and no cameras inside your car that are required, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a great point. Don't drive like an asshole, and they don't have to think of these bullshit laws to try to counteract everybody. That is a good point. Get off your goddamn phone while you're driving. It's very simple to not text at every fucking red light you come to.
Yeah, please don't be drunk, don't be high, don't be on your phone.
Hey, I'm just gonna put this out there too. Don't be Josh. I mean, come on.
That's the deadliest one of all. Jesus Christ. There's a DWJ, driving while Josh.
Oh shit. That should be a 17-year penalty in jail.
10 months with good behavior.
Alright. Well, I just wanted to get that topic out there. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep it under a half hour, which is going to try to be the goal here. So anytime you can jump back on and we'll have a little discussion just like that, I always appreciate it. I hope the viewers appreciate it. I hope you'll be back and join us for the next one. See you guys.
Hey, good to be here, William. Take care, guys.